Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
And we're here today to talk about Kipo Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4.
Yes.
The Ballad of Brunchington Beach.
Oh, boy.
Which is a heck of a name. And To Catch a Death Stalker.
Two truly fantastic episodes.
Oh, no, I love these episodes to pieces. Those of you familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender may recognize as the Brunchington Beach episode basically being our Fire Island episode.
Interesting.
The players of Fire Island getting the story a little bit wrong.
Mm-hmm. I like that episode had some unusual combos in it. Mm-hmm. And dear listeners, I may just spend this entire podcast episode quoting Dave. You know, I might.
I mean, Dave is extremely quotable, especially in these episodes.
He's always been funny before. I've always liked him before. But the writers just went to town in these two episodes. Truly.
Especially these two. But yes, we open with our, is it four? Is it four of them? Quadra, whatever, it doesn't matter.
My notes just call them the team. Whenever it's them and the twins, I unfortunately call this the A-team. Which I know isn't super kind to Troy and the twins, but this is in fact the A-team.
Fair. No, I mean, I would have to agree with that. Look, Kipo all by herself just ends up making a team an A-team.
Yeah. I mean, Kipo and Wolf and Benson and Dave. I mean, Dave, who is literally and actually canonically now immortal.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we had made that joke before about how he can die and live and die again, and that's why it's impossible for him to grow as a character. But now Dave has said, it's in the canon, that he has died for everyone on this team many, many times.
Because he has.
He's immortal.
Yeah, he's immortal.
This is the A-team.
And I also love the idea that he has a concept of a mom and a dad. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but just really quickly, he has a concept of a mom and a dad. So I'm like, what were your parents? Like, how, like, it's fine. Are you telling me is one of those stages like an actual fertile stage that you could legitimately have kids?
I mean, it's gotta be. And then when the kid comes out, does the kid come out as a baby? Maybe.
I guess. A cocoon?
Yeah. A cocoon that quickly grows up.
Tiny.
Very quickly grows up.
A cocoon tiny. But yes, so to get into these episodes, we pick up with and it is 5. I honestly forgot about Dave. I was counting Mondu, Benson, Wolf, and Kipo.
Dave.
I forgot about
5.
Dave.
It's also hard not to count Benson and Dave together.
Also true. They are kind of a unit.
They dream together.
They do dream together. So
our squad of 5.
Our squad of 5, our team machine, our A-team is walking down the street. They're avoiding the Flamingoes. They're avoiding detection. They're definitely trying to be stealthier than usual, except Kipo doesn't know how to do that.
Dave is like dropping soda cans. They're trying to be as stealthy as they can. Unsuccessfully. And, it's interesting, I think, because for the first time, our team really has nothing to go on. They have no direction. They have no clues. Mm-hmm. They have nothing. They're just like, your dad came from a different borough, and we don't know, the Chevre sisters were like, we don't know which one it is. The cheese didn't tell us. There are some things the cheese doesn't know. It's not that specific. But, they have nothing to go on, and they're kind of just wandering around the wasteland trying to figure out what to do when Dave has this brilliant idea to go to Cappuccino's brunching. Is it Cappuccino's, bar? Oh, so it's called Brunchington Beach.
It is called
Brunchington
the name of Beach, yes.
Her restaurant.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And Cappuccino is a giant shrimp.
Yep.
Who cooks these delicious brunch meals. And in currency, she doesn't take money. She takes secrets and knowledge. I mean, hijinks ensue. But Dave, the great thing about this is Benson is look, I've known Dave for a long time. If we're doing a Dave plan, it's instantly sketch. Are you sure you want to follow a Dave plan? Is this really the direction we're going in? And Dave is like, no,
but to your point, they have literally nothing else to go on. Nothing else to go on. And Wolf has lived such a solitary lifestyle. While she's really, really good at surviving on the surface, she doesn't really have the, street smarts that Dave and Benson have, where they actually know the places where you go to get information.
Exactly.
So she
hasn't had to grift her way through life.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get into her backstory. Okay. That's what that little pause was. It was me deciding whether to fast forward and then deciding let's not fast forward.
It was you remembering in your mind palace. So
beginning with Dave listing the rules for Brunchington Beach, which I kind of love. Everyone pays separately.
1,
which should be a rule at many, many, many places.
Yes.
Everyone pays separately. 2, you must pay an information. And then he just stops at 2.
Yep. And I love that Wolf is the one being like, you said there were 3. Like she knew it was coming. And Dave was like, oh, I don't remember the 3rd one. Can't be that important. Let's go. So they sort of stumble upon this theater troupe of otters who call themselves.
You can't let me say the name.
I can't let you. If Danielle says their name, it will blow out her sound. So I'm going to try and do it, hopefully without blowing out my sound. The otters. I think I did it.
You did it. You said it in normal human volume. Like, I can't say the name of the theater troupe or the traveling bards in a regular human volume because I just love it so much.
Yes. I mean, look, I love an otter. Otter is one of my favorite animals. They're so great. Mm-hmm. And these otters are pretty great all on their own. It's that kind of theater troupe where like they've obviously made all of their own costumes and written all of their own music and wrote all their own scripts, and they're just there to entertain.
It's the kind of theater troupe that exists in an apocalypse,
exactly,
right? Or in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. They write everything on their own. They create everything on your own, and they just travel from place to place to place, entertaining whoever they come across.
Yeah.
And that's who they are. And this theater troupe knows how to play to the crowd. And so rule number 3 at Brunchington Beach is no humans allowed, because Cappuccino hates humans. And so since they're playing to a no humans allowed crowd, they end up telling Kipo's story, but from the perspective, from a skewed perspective. So as if Kipo is the villain, and the Newton wolves are the
heroes.
Victims?
Yes, victims.
Or heroes. Yes, victims.
No, it portrays them as the victims of these terrible, horrible humans who show up and bite them. And I don't know, there's some lyrics in there. It's very funny because it's like Kipo is portrayed as this sort of is the leader of the group, and like Benson, who they call Benjamin,
Kipo's cowardly friend.
Kipo's cowardly friend. I don't even know if like Wolf, I feel like is like a non-character in their troupe. Like we didn't even get to find out anything interesting about Wolf, and I was like, wow, really? Like you left out the fighter.
But that's because I guess no one's really been around to see any of their fights, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. Like, are the Newton wolves going to give them detail on how they were utterly trounced by a small child? They're not going to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely a unreliable narrator kind of thing. But it's like, but also obviously through the game of telephone.
Yes.
Because inevitably it's like, the wolves also wouldn't talk about themselves in that kind of way of like that they would be taken advantage of, right? So like I'm sure the story probably is skewed from like a bunch of people telling it and a bunch of things just being different and different and different, and then that happened.
No, that's fair. Okay, so that's kind of the A plot of the episode, right? So the A plot of the episode is that Kipo desperately wants to ask Cappuccino about her dad's original burrow, but she can't ask Cappuccino as herself because Cappuccino hates humans. So each human gets into the costume that matches their outside.
Yes.
Which is spectacular.
Love it so much.
The instant they walk through the door, Dave is arrested because he dined and dashed 10 years ago and is assigned to dish duty. And guess who's also on dish duty? It's Jamak. And so that's like the B plot of this episode. We get a Benson and Jamak team up, which is not something I knew I wanted, but it was spectacular.
So good. Jamak is one of those, bad guy characters who resists being anything else. But he's not cut out to be a bad guy. And he can't really come to terms with it. But also... but also is not the type of person to go and now fight for the good guys. So I love that it's just like, what do you mean? What do you mean she's here? Why is she here? And it's just like, oh, you do care. It's like, no, I just don't want my good deeds to be put to waste.
Well, that's kind of what I love about them as a pair, because Jamak is very clearly, to your point, really bad at being a villain. Right? Cares about Kipo and is just in denial about it. And Dave doesn't have enough of a filter to not say anything about that.
Nope.
He's like, oh, she really did change your heart. Not like in a make fun of you way. He's just objectively stating what he sees in front of him, which is that Jamak is very clearly worried about Kipo. And Jamak was like so happy to just hang out in the kitchen, washing dishes, eating scraps, because at least he's safe and he has good food, until he finds out that Kipo's in danger.
Yep.
And that's when he decides to break out.
I just love it so much. And I love that their plan is like, okay, Dave, be stealthy. You have to go on this conveyor belt and get the keys. And as soon as he's in the other room, okay, which one of you has the keys? And then you hear fighting sounds. And then
Dave dies immediately.
And then Jamak has the tiny baby Dave that came through, who I think also still circles back through. And then we get teenager Dave of like, you're not my dad, and circles back through. And somehow he manages to get the keys. We don't actually know how. It happens off screen. I also like that it kind of saves a little bit on the animation budget while still being hilarious that they didn't have to animate anything that happened off screen. And it was still so funny and worked so well.
And you see it 100% from Jamak's perspective. It is so good. I honestly went back and rewatched that scene twice.
It's a good scene.
Not even like,
It's one of my favorite Dave scenes, I think, in the entire show. I mean, like, I love Jamak every time I see him, but like it really makes Dave shine there.
It does. But I think that the part of the reason I love the two of them together is kind of, from the Dave side, I love that Dave just calls Jamak out.
Sure.
On everything he does. But then the flip side is, like, if Benson were in that situation, Benson would try his best to humor Dave or to be like, oh, ha ha, Dave, But from Jamak's perspective, you just see how utterly infuriated he is with this ridiculous behavior.
Yes. Yep.
And which is the reasonable response, I think, to this situation.
Oh,
when you tell someone to be stealthy, and then they yelled at a room, does anyone know where I can find the keys? Yeah, that person dies. That's what happens.
Yeah. And I think it's to your point, which I think you made in another episode, where it's like, yes, but if you couldn't die, you would just live like this. This is how you live now.
Exactly.
And you take chances and you go through stuff and it's like, you're immortal. You'll just grow back into the end. You have all your memories is the other bonkers thing to me. It's like, you remember everything that's ever happened to you,
Yeah, like how did this show just casually drop the fact that, yes, it's hard to keep Dave down, but he has fully been eaten and lived in a mega mute's belly for like 20 years.
Yeah.
He just did that. What?
Because he was cold.
He was cold, so he says. Or he got eaten and just had to live inside something's belly until the thing died. And then he probably erupted out of it alien style because, again, he's immortal.
Because he's immortal. I mean, like, this is one of those examples. And listen, folks, I know we're talking a lot about Dave. He kind of was the star of this episode.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Just please go with it. I promise. We're almost getting to the rest of the plot. But, like, the thing I really like about Dave in particular is he's this, like, this isn't, for as much as Kipo is overpowered and she has one pretty bad flaw, right? Like, it's not super great. It's pretty bad, but it's not, like, awful. Dave has some of the same thing, except I think his flaw is way worse. Because, like, he would be so much more competent, except he's not.
Oh, yeah. Like, he would be so much more competent if he actually had to try at anything he's ever done.
Exactly.
Which is survive and have fun. Like, that's what Dave does. He survives and he has fun.
Like, if he actually was able to pay attention to the things that he's doing and understand that there are consequences to the things that he's doing,
yeah,
you know, he would be a completely different character. But because he is this way, that's not at all true. And we get this, like, and it's hilarious to me because, like, if you have an immortal character, they should be the most powerful one on your team. But he's not because he is who he is. You know, and, like, for an entirely immortal character, the fact that he runs away so often is amazing to me. You know, like, it's just great. It's great. I love Dave. We love Dave. Okay, let's get off the Dave train because otherwise, because we have to eventually get on the Wolf train, and we can't have two trains.
We can have 2 trains. We can have 5 trains. We can
have 5 trains.
So part of the reason Dave is the star of this episode is that as we mentioned earlier, most of the A-team spends the episode in costume.
Right.
While the main otter sings around them about how humans are awful. And, you know, I think the chorus of his song literally has the words, "Down with the humans," and everyone just kind of sings along. So, yeah, like the A-team is mostly silent for this episode.
Yeah.
Until the end, where Kipo being Kipo kind of gets caught up in the moment, does a grandiose bow after their stellar performance, and the head part of her costume falls off. And that's the minute the episode just kind of changes gear. And we get some pretty awesome fight scenes.
I do really like, just to call it out, because it's one of my favorite moments in the whole episode. There's been a lot of, like, throughout the episode while they were performing, it was a lot of, like, yay, mutes, and the crowd would cheer, and, like, boo, humans, and the crowd would boo. And so, like, they find out that Kipo is human. They find out that Benson is human. They find out that Wolf is human, and you hear all these boos and jeers. And then, like, they take off another mask, and it's an otter, and then you hear the cheers again. And it was pretty great. Like, I've forgotten how funny that was. Like, what a funny joke. And I had to, like, rewind and make sure that that's the thing they did. But no, and Cappuccino is like, I'm going to feed you to my Eldritch Horror now.
Right? What even is that creature?
I don't know. It's like a Snarlack of the sea. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks like that wormy creature from Fringe.
Oh, it does. Like a giant hookworm.
Yeah.
Ooh,
maybe
like
that's
a really,
what it
really
is.
big hookworm. Ooh.
What if it's like a mega mute hookworm?
Ooh. Oh, I don't like it.
Its name is Harriet, and it eats Cappuccino's enemies.
Yes.
Humans.
Harriet is terrifying.
Thankfully, Jamak saves the day.
Yes. That is, you know, in beautiful Deus Ex Jamak style. Jamak and Dave come out and fighting ensues. And, you know, they pretty much get away. They are able to avoid everything. Jamak is such an amazing fighter when he's trying to save Kipo, but only when he's trying to save Kipo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they almost
right. They actually do have some great fighters on their team. I mean, skipping quickly to the end of the episode because we can talk about Scarlemagne separately, But this is only one of 2 fight scenes in the episode because later Scarlemagne's minions show up and there ends up being a whole fight with them. And their 3 fighters are now Kipo, Jamak, and Wolf.
Yeah.
And then they have Benson and Dave. Well, Benson gets everyone to cover. Dave gets some brunch to go. So really, Benson...
Dave is just there eating.
Dave is just there eating. But no, it's a pretty awesome team, all things considered.
Yeah. And we also find out, there's been this sort of overhanging, will Kipo lose herself in the Mega Jaguar? That's kind of been, sort of referenced in conversation, but never really tested. And we get a little bit of that in this episode where, she's fighting with one of the, I think it's an orangutan on... Yeah, she's fighting with an orangutan on one of the flamingos and almost drops him into the mouth of Harriet on purpose. And, Wolf is there to sort of be like, no, Kipo, that's not who you are. And she kind of wakes up a little bit. But of course, with enough time for the orangutan to try and throw her into Harriet. Mm-hmm. And then Wolf has to do an amazing, toss me move where she
so good
grabs a hold of Jamak's tongue, which is his biggest fighting limb, and grabs Kipo, but they end up in the Snarlack anyway, but then they fight their way out. It's such a good sequence of stuff, and it happens in 15 seconds.
Truly a fantastic fight scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that by that point in the episode, Kipo had hulked out, for lack of a better way to describe it, which is why she almost lost control and killed that orangutan. Mm-hmm. But then as Harriet tried to swallow her, she did the cat thing where you stick your arms and legs out with your claws out. And so she kind of got stuck in the top portion of Harriet's mouth, before you got into Harriet's throat, which I think is eventually why Harriet opened back up again and Jamak was able to pull them out. But those cat reflexes, so good.
Those cat reflexes. Yes, and this was the first time I think that both of her feet turned cat-like with full-on paws.
Both her hands and her eyes, too.
Yeah.
It was almost the whole thing. Not the tail, but the tail's, less relevant, I think.
Yeah, not the tail and the ears.
Yeah, but her legs were mega-sized, which we hadn't really seen before. I think before, when we had seen her jaguar legs, it was just her legs became more furry.
Yeah. It was like the furry arm. It was and suddenly her legs were furry also. But it wasn't full on paws, which is what we got here. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only other reason it's important that Scarlemagne's thugs attack is because now we know that Scarlemagne is planning a coronation in 1 week.
Classic Scarlemagne. Classic. And he is, quote, inviting everyone in what will become his empire to attend the coronation. But it was very much an invitation with a giant "or else" on the bottom of it.
Yeah. It was not a choice.
So this was a cool moment, I thought, because this is where we kind of get into mute politics, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. A little bit more closely, right? Because up until this point, we've seen Scarlemagne, and we know that Scarlemagne is kind of this rebel leader, and we understand Scarlemagne's whole thing, right? We know that Scarlemagne can control primates, for lack of a better way to describe the species. And most of the other groups of animals we've seen have been just very happy to join his side. For whatever reason, either because they were anti-human themselves, because they agree with him on that front, or because they're scared of him, frankly, which is what we see in this episode, right? He's a rebel leader and people are scared to stand up to him.
Right.
Cappuccino is not. And she agrees with him on the anti-human stuff. She is distinctly anti-human, but at the same time, she's like, this is my territory and you can't just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So we get to see our first little conflict between Scarlemagne and a group of mutes that aren't friends with Kipo.
I like that it was 2 mob bosses fighting over territory, where it's look, we agree on the fundamentals, but the fact remains that this spot is my spot and you need to not be in my spot.
And you can't just tell me to cook for you for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Nah.
I also like that the other mutes kind of didn't back her up. Like her little mini shrimpies did, but like none of
and
like
then one of them was immediately eaten.
Yes. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Shrimpy.
R.I.P. Shrimpy. Eaten by the flamingo, which, by the way, what do flamingos eat?
No, they eat shrimp. That's the funniest thing about it.
Wait, do they?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Like, the funniest thing about that moment is flamingos legit eat shrimp.
I didn't know that. See, this show is teaching me things. I love that. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. But anyway, I love that. But yes, getting back to the actual episode. Yeah, I like that she, is able to have this sort of empowering moment and stand up for herself while at the same time sort of being kind of on the outs with the people around her who are just like you said, either they're frightened or they've already sided with him or whatever,
Yeah. And it's, now that you bring up the two mob bosses, it's interesting that the mod frogs are just so happy to join Scarlemagne's side.
Right?
Because they very clearly follow that structure too. Like, some part of me isn't surprised that the humming bombers are just on Scarlemagne's side, right? Because they're basically leaderless. But the mod frogs,
what do you mean we get to blow things up? Sign me up.
Sign me up. Oh my goodness. I love when we do things in sync. But yes, that's exactly. Or the raccoons are obviously too scared to fight back because they wouldn't even fight back with Beak Beak. But the mod frogs?
Yeah, the mod frogs are honestly a little suspicious of that. I mean, I think it's also, there's this level of a toxic environment. And I don't know if it's you're just choosing one toxic environment for another toxic environment. Of course, maybe I'm reading into it too much.
No, or maybe it's maybe with the mod frogs, they view it more as we have a mutual enemy. Our mutual enemy is humans. We clearly we dislike them. Yeah, absolutely, we'll band together. As long as I still think that they would want some measure of autonomy. Listen, I haven't seen the rest of this show. Perhaps there will be some more mute conflicts that I'm unaware of. But I feel like this episode shows me that conflict is brewing.
Exactly. And that's what this episode is meant to portray, I think. That it's not every mute is going to agree with Scarlemagne.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, with a place like Brunchington Beach, what? Every mute who lives in that area is just going to stop going to Brunchington Beach? Come on.
I know.
That's the best food ever. That's just not going to happen.
They're eating because it's delicious and they want to eat. They're not eating because they're hungry. They're eating because they can.
I loved that moment for Wolf where she was like, I'm confused. Why are they eating a week's worth of food at a time?
Yeah.
And Dave is like, because they're eating for fun.
They're eating for fun. They're eating for fun.
Poor Wolf.
Absolutely not on Wolf's agenda at all. I love that she's scrimped and saved for too long. She doesn't understand what decadently eating is.
No.
Absolutely not.
And when she said that, I was like, I just want to make her a mountain of waffles, or whatever it is that Wolf would want to eat. I don't know. Well, does she order waffles at the end? She doesn't. The other three ordered waffles. Kipo ordered spaghetti. What did Wolf order?
Oh, no.
I'll go back and watch it. It was like a spaghetti meatball situation for Kipo. And then the three on the opposite end of the table had what looked like a waffle with some kind of reduction. I'm saying reduction instead of syrup because it felt like a fancy brunch place.
It did feel like a fancy brunch place. There was a bunch of names of foods that didn't make any sense to me, but I was like, cool. Sounds good.
Sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious. But yes, so that was this episode. Eventually, Kipo gets the information from Cappuccino because they saved Cappuccino's life instead of running away. This is that time where it's yep, it is really good to care and be optimistic and impulsive, where it's just no, I'm not going to run away. It doesn't matter that she tried to kill us. What matters is that, she's in danger and we can help her.
Right. And I like also that the rest of the team did want to run away and Kipo force them to stay, right?
Right.
Because she's dead set on getting this information from Cappuccino. But at the end of the day, because Kipo's mega jaguar side took over and she was involved in the fight, it was really Benson who decided to save Cappuccino's life.
Yeah. It was Benson who helped her up.
Yeah.
But it was 100% Kipo. It was 100% Kipo who was standing at a door when they were obviously already escaped.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, Kipo convinced them to stay.
Oh,
right?
yes. Yeah.
But then she got involved in the fight.
Yeah.
So Benson is the one who had to make the decision to save Cappuccino.
No, on that I will 100% agree with you on. Yeah. It's funny, listeners, because this fight sequence, a lot happens. I'm not going to do a play-by-play. It's just amazing. But we have to start talking about the next episode or we'll run out of time. And the next episode is, they're following this map that Cappuccino made for them. And they realize it's going to bring them through Deathstalker country. Country?
Yes.
Territory?
Territory? Yeah.
I think it's territory.
Let's say territory.
But the episode opens with the wee baby wolf, like fresh-ish from her escape from her wolf family. Like she still has some of the clothes.
Yes, she still has her clothes. She's already killed a wolf, so she's wearing her wolfy hood. But she doesn't have Stocky yet because this is the story of how she gets Stocky.
Yes. She ends up in Deathstalker territory and she learns how to fight the Deathstalkers. And this is one of my favorite, like, scariest animals in the show. Because, the way they hunt their prey is by the more your heart races and the more fear you feel. She's able to understand how that works. And then she takes one of their stingers and makes Stocky with it. And it's great. I love it. I love everything about it.
She does that so instantly, like feeling her pulse and slowing her heart rate. Some part of me has to believe that the Newton wolves taught her how to do that.
Well, her wolf family. Insert wolf family.
Oh, not the Newton wolves. Yeah, sorry. But I don't know. I feel like maybe that was part of her training and it kicked in and she was able to slow her heart rate. But at any rate, Scarlemagne's army is still continuing to search the streets. They're using fireflies as their searchlights, which I thought was adorable.
Pretty good, right?
But the team realizes that they need to travel through Deathstalker territory in order to get to the second burrow. And it's exactly the same Deathstalker territory that the wee wolf had to find a way to survive in. And so, long story short, we split the party. Benson, Dave, and Mondu go off to create a distraction and get rid of the Flamingos, leaving Kipo and Wolf to trek through Deathstalker territory on their own. And for the rest of the episode, it doesn't actually bop back and forth between the two halves of the party, which is what the other split party episodes have done. Instead, this episode focuses entirely on Kipo and Wolf.
Yeah. It just sort of solidifies their friendship.
It solidifies their friendship. We get a lot of nice moments between them. And through Kipo's eyes, we get even more insight into what Wolf's life was like as a child who grew up on the surface alone.
Yeah.
So they escape from a couple of Deathstalkers and end up in in what used to be Wolf's home. And Wolf is literally like, don't get excited. It's just a random place I found. And Kipo, obviously, immediately gets excited. And listen, I did too, because the first thing I clocked was that Wolf has a teddy bear. Like, yes, this is a random place she found, but this is a random place she found full of things that were important to her. Which include a teddy bear.
You mean a headrest?
Just a headrest, exactly. Which she insists is just a headrest. And everything else there, these are not toys. They are survival tools. That's not a jump rope. That's a hand stopper. You use it to, bind up your
hog
victims.
tie your enemies.
Yeah. The devil sticks meant for dancing. Those aren't for dancing. Those are for fighting. The karaoke machine. The hoot hoot. Oh my gosh.
The hoot hoot.
The hoot hoot, which she uses to scare Deathstalkers because they are apparently scared of owls.
I mean,
hoot hoot.
I mean, like, look, if we've got owls the size of Beak Beak flying around out there, that is terrifying. Owls are murderers.
Terrifying. But in the midst of all of that, you know, the show plays it in a very lighthearted way, but Wolf named Hoot Hoot, the karaoke machine, when she was 5.
I know.
So there she is, this like little 5-year-old just in the apartment. No one has taught her that these are toys. And so, yeah, this is in fact how she's going to survive this terrible world she's found herself in.
Yeah. Yeah. It all makes perfect sense. It makes sense as soon as she starts talking about all that stuff. And of course, Kipo is like, but this is a karaoke machine. What if we sang a song? And it's like, no, we have to we have to teach you how to like not freak out.
Yeah. But that's because she's so focused on survival, right? Like eating for fun. What? Singing for fun. What?
How does one even do that? And I love that she gets so uncomfortable when, finally she's like, okay, we can take a break. And Kipo is like, great, let's sing a song. And she is so uncomfortable. So deeply uncomfortable. Trying to sing this duet with Kipo. Actually, she doesn't even try. She doesn't try at all.
No. She just kind of side-eyes her. There's a little smile here and there because I think even she can't quite resist Kipo's enthusiasm. Yeah. But she for sure does not join in. And so Kipo ends up singing both parts of the duet, which is classic Kipo. Classic.
Exactly. And, we get this, like, vignette. We get that, like, Kipo actually gets it. Kipo actually gets the, like, yep, I can be calm, I can be collected, I can be perfectly fine. And it works. They leave, the hideout. They start walking down the street. The Deathstalkers do not see them. And Wolf starts getting nervous about Kipo because she doesn't, she's still, it's because Kipo is not staying calm the way Wolf would. It's still not an 100% thing for Wolf, I think.
Yeah, like she doesn't fully, trust is the wrong word because friendship-wise, they do trust each other. But she doesn't fully believe that Kipo's actually going to be able to keep herself calm. Right? Exactly. And that worry about Kipo causes her heart rate to increase. And so, guess what? Terribly, Wolf was right. Her Achilles heel is her friends.
I know.
Like the thing that slows her down and the thing that will weaken her and the thing that will cause her to not survive at the end of the day are the people that she has surrounded herself with.
Yeah. I mean,
and yeah.
It's this weird self-fulfilling prophecy too of like, because she's the one that's freaking out, the Deathstalker sees her and not Kipo.
Yeah.
And I love this moment because what it does two things. It shows you something about Wolf that she probably didn't even understand herself. And she completely admits at the end of the episode. Like, we don't even have this long, like, I was totally fine. I don't know what, like there's no misdirect. There's no machismo about it. She just flat out said, she was like, actually, that was me. I screwed up and I was worried about you. And that's why the Deathstalker got me. And we also, okay, I'm skipping over it, but like, don't worry, Kipo totally destroys the Deathstalker and saves Wolf's life.
It's fine.
It's
Excellent
fine.
Fight scene.
Everyone's good. Another awesome fight scene. We're great. But like, I also, like, this is maybe not the first time, but this is one of the first times that Kipo actually has a moment of clarity and actually learns how to do something from her friends that literally saves her life immediately. And she doesn't just barrel on through. And she's like, she actually listens to Wolf. And she's like, I understand that this is the way. I know this is the way to make it work. And I know I'm like super nervous about turning into the Megwort Jaguar. And I'm really, I'm nervous about my dad and all my people. And I don't want them to destroy things. And like, I have so many things to be stressed out about. But I also really understand how important this is. And we need to get this done. And she does it with aplomb.
Yeah. It's true. I don't think that she really uses her Mega Jaguar paws when she's. I think she uses the legs maybe as she's kind of hopping around. I can't quite remember, but she doesn't.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't.
She doesn't like slash at the Deathstalkers with her giant claws, which she very well could have. Instead, the way she plays the scene is, what would Wolf do?
Yeah.
And she uses the hand stopper. She uses the dancing sticks that are not for dancing. And she uses Hoot Hoot, or tries to anyway. I think she mostly just holds Hoot Hoot.
I know. She definitely yells Hoot Hoot into Hoot Hoot, but I don't know if it actually does anything. I think it's just more like a battle cry.
I agree. I think it was mostly the jump rope and the dancing sticks.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, so like really, really great juxtaposition there between the two of them. And again, like the whole thing where Kipo's entire life has been, don't stress her out, don't expose her to danger. And Wolf is just polar opposite.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I love that we get that like, trade-off in this episode of like Wolf being out of her element and, being essentially, like you said, making herself vulnerable without even really meaning to. But it's
she's someone else to worry about now.
I know. I know. She's not alone. She's not alone anymore. And then the team reunites, and it's hilarious because Dave and Mondu and Benson show up in cowboy-ish.
They very clearly had a wild adventure, and we will just never know what happened to them. Muscle Dave in a trench coat,
if you're
Benson in cowboy attire, and Mondu dressed like a sheep is what we get.
If you're hoping for an explanation, I have bad news. It's not going to happen.
I'm actually not. I actually really love this joke just in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I think that any kind of glorious adventure I could come up with in my headcanon is going to make me very, very happy. That's really all I need.
Yeah, fair.
So they show up, but rather than telling us all of the adventures they were up to, they do the more important thing, which is to engage in a karaoke song.
Yes.
Because right as they show up, Kipo caught Wolf at the Christy IV humming, convinces her, heavy quotes on convincing, because I think Wolf knew what was going on, convinces Wolf to start singing the song to remind Kipo how it went, and that's when the team shows up. Benson bursts into song, and then the whole team joins in. Which, listen, the instant I saw the karaoke machine in this episode, all I wanted was a team sing-along. And I got it.
And you got it.
The show gave it to me. Mm-hmm.
No, the show knows what we want.
Complete with Dave's very, like, you're not alone, girl, in the middle of the song.
I know. His very, like, 90s R&B.
Very 90s R&B.
And the C plot, or the D plot, or whatever, the extra plot on this is we get to see what Scarlemane's been up to.
Which is like, I mean, it's pretty basic. They don't really go into that much detail.
It's pretty basic. I mean, like, they explode a vault. They get a bunch of gold. He's building something. We don't know what the something is, really. It's kind of off in the distance. And then the Flamingoes bring back the Mega Monkey collar. So he knows the Mega Monkey is on the loose, and he has to go find her. And the renegade humans also see the Mega Monkey collar, which is very interesting because they also recognize it. And they're like, oh, we got to beat him to her.
Exactly. So you're right. I think that part of these episodes is super important, but it's like setting up for what's going to come next.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have a deadline now, which I like, which is the coronation. And now we know kind of what the renegade humans' deal is. That they keep an eye on Scarlemane, and they want to save the humans that he is enslaved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoy the way they burst into the vault with
me too.
with the bomber nectar in a glass, and then he got a soprano to sing a high C. You literally could have thrown the bomber nectar at the vault.
Just throw it at the vault. Put it in a water balloon.
Yeah.
Throw the glass at the vault.
But no, we had to get a soprano to sing a high C.
Hey,
and then when it explodes, it takes out the soprano as well. And Scarlemagne just laughs.
Scarlemagne is nothing if not traumatic.
I know. I'm just getting like deep 60s Batman villain vibes from Scarlemagne. I love him to all the pieces so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Team Scarlemagne.
Team Scarlemagne, Team Dave.
Team Dave. I think we're on
Team Immortal Beings Who Never Learn.
Wait, I think I stepped over that. What was that?
That was Team Immortal Beings Who Never Learn.
Yes. 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 I think we're on one more thing. Do you have a one more thing?
We talked about quite a few of the things I had kind of highlighted as options.
Yeah, fair.
Do you?
I do. Mine is kind of, I guess mine could be considered a piece of trivia. I don't know. Anybody who listens to the soundtrack for Kipo and the Wonderbeasts for season 2, they because they know what we want, they include a karaoke version of Heroes on Fire.
That's awesome.
And I love it. I love that it's there. I love that it exists. I'm so glad that they fulfilled their obligation to have it as an actual karaoke song, complete with the backup singing and whatnot. Like, I love it.
I mean, I have to believe that Mondo's is like some kind of like cheesy scrambled egg, because we know that Mondo likes those cheesy chips.
Sure does.
My one more thing is food related, of course, which is that a little peek behind the scenes. We took a quick break from the pod so that I could go back into the episode, scrub to the end of the Ballad of Brunchington Beach, and figure out what everyone actually ate for brunch. And it turns out that I was a little bit right, because in my head, I shouldn't have doubted myself. I said that I would serve Wolf a mountain of waffles, and then doubted myself, and that's exactly what she got, which makes sense. Because Wolf doesn't know what to eat for fun, right? Like, Wolf doesn't know what to order at brunch. So Benson and Dave ordered waffles and obviously sold Wolf on ordering waffles as well. So Wolf is sitting in front of her waffles looking super suspicious. Kipo has the spaghetti meatballs, which we were correct about. Hard to forget Jaguar version of her tearing those apart.
True.
And it's Mandu who is something different. It looks like a bowl of maybe like cheesy scrambled eggs with little scallion kind of sprinkled on the top.
It's kind of like, it's definitely a scrambled orange something.
I say cheesy because I know that Mandu loves the cheesy chips.
Yeah,
so I want it to
cheesy.
just all be in It's got to be like a cheesy scrambled.
It's got to be cheesy. Look, and as somebody who absolutely loves waffles, I understand that waffles are a sometimes food, and they should not be in my normal everyday diet to keep me going. Waffles are like dessert at best. So, like, yes, serve her a mountain of waffles and see how she...
Mountain of waffles. It's also
goes.
A special brunch food for me personally because, you know, small kitchen, limited storage space. I'm not the sort of person who buys an appliance that can only be used for one specific thing.
Sure.
And so a waffle maker is not something I would ever buy.
Yeah, fair, totally fair. And before,
so I must go to brunch in order to have waffles.
I love that that's what that is. I love that that's the takeaway you have. Obviously, I have to go to brunch to get these special once-in-a-lifetime waffles because that's just my life.
Don't own the thing that you make them with.
And before we end this episode, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of our listeners who have been really just tearing up the downloads. I think all time, by the time this episode comes out, it's over 3,700 downloads since we started. And just in this last year, I just want to see if I can, since January of 2022, there have been over 2,000 downloads, 2,000 unique downloads of our podcast. And just, I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys. That really makes our day. We hope you're enjoying it. We enjoy recording it. Like, subscribe, rate, do all that fun stuff. Tell your friends. Wait, it's not my part yet. Wait.
In addition to your downloads, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can tell us, do you have a calming mantra that works really well for you? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BachPod.
That's right. And now you can tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, and tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock. And we will see you next time.